Anthony.
Yo.
It's your 50th anniversary, and you've gone from Ed Sullivan to David Letterman.
Yeah.
What changed?
Nothing. No. They, you know, actually, they're both in the same studio. You know, the CBS studio. They still had the balcony. The setup was basically the same, though. When I got there, and I'm a curious sort of animal, I like to walk around any concerts before the concert, and I walk all through the theater. I walk. I was trained in acting and working in theater, so I have this instinct to find out where everything is, where the booms are, where the overhangers are, where the footlights are, where I just want to feel as comfortable being in my environment, knowing where everything is. So I walk around. And I walked in there, I left these guys, they all up in the dressing room, went down by myself, and I walked on the stage. And I have this vivid imagination, and I visualized the Ray Bloch Orchestra was over there, and I said, oh, they changed that, but I remember when Tom Jones came through that way, and Ed Sullivan, and I got teary-eyed because it was something that I remembered. And then I realized how profound it was that time. Here I was, bazillion years later, in the same place that we actually became, that gave us our, launched us. And I'm right back in New York. And I told him, I said, isn't it odd that I started, I'm from Brooklyn, and in New York City, and here we are in New York City where everything is still happening. Well, we came to the conclusion is that's my DNA. And that's the guys in the Imperials DNA. So that's, I don't know if that, I answered that too cool, but I meant to. But no, the only change that I saw was the time. This was 67, 65, 67, and here I am in 2008 in the same place and time. And that gave me a really good feeling that I can answer that question.
Yes, I think you answered it quite well. In case you hadn't seen the performance, it's still being streamed on CBS late night. It was, as we were just discussing with Dr. Marconi, it cost them $12,000 to do that 3.5-minute segment by bringing in strings, timpanis, background singers. It was what Paul Schaefer's idea and what he bounced off Anthony was to recreate what Teddy Randazzo originally did in 1965 in a studio setting, to bring it back onto TV. And the interesting thing that happened out of that, we all know that primarily Letterman's audience is a 20-something audience. The people that work for his staff are all 20-somethings. Every one of them had the same reaction to the performance, saying it was amazing, and they have never seen a group sing with an orchestra before. Now,
No.
right.
I'd never been, I didn't know that. Like I said, back in 67, we were with the Ray Bloch Orchestra with violins and everything. And Paul had that vision to see that and then to sell it to Letterman. Nothing gets done on Letterman without Letterman saying, okay, he's hands-on. And he sold it.
Right. Well, his first, you know what his first comment was?
What?
He said he didn't know that you guys were still active.
Oh, no, he said, are they still alive?
I didn't want to say that.
That hurt, man. Yeah, and so Paul says, oh, yeah, I've done this, I've done that. He was at the songwriters, Long Island Songwriters. They received that award and this award. It refreshed his mind. And it stimulated Letterman. So he was curious, because he came downstairs. He's where his money's gone, you know? And he sees all these people. And then to find out from Paul, they have never in the history of his show, anytime he's ever been on those talk shows, ever had that many musicians for nobody. And I said to myself, now how do we warrant that? You know? It was heavy.
Yeah, and it was.
Remember? Yeah, I was said, whoa.
And it was like Anthony and I have talked. We both had a new respect for Paul Schaefer.
Yeah, we became friends. He talked to him a lot on the phone. And
well, he was masterful in even saying to one of the violins, "You're out of tune. Timpani, you're not hitting that correctly."
He wouldn't let anything go through. We rehearsed up before we even shot, like what 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And they kept saying, 10 minutes. You know, he's still trying to get everything perfect. And what Paul is, he's a historian of music. He's from Canada, for goodness sake. He's he's an historian of this American thing, American music. And he saw us like I didn't see me. He saw us. He was influenced by what he saw back in 1965. And to him, that's what we should be all the time. In that respect, that's cool. Wow. You know?
And plus, television isn't done like that anymore.
No.
I mean, it was a rare experience, and I was really happy for these guys that they would participate in something like that. And a funnier, just in closing, is we're about to leave. Will Lee comes up to Anthony and says, "How do you get hurt so bad out of your head?" He said, "I just can't get this song out of my head."
Yeah, he had something that he was doing, and even Letterman wondered, what is that? You know, I ain't gonna say what he said. Was that what he was doing? Well, he had a computer there with the click, or we call it click, or the rhythm thing. He had to listen to it before he counted it, because he wanted it exactly like Teddy and Don Costa did it. You know, and he said, "You know, Anthony, do you understand who you are?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." "Who am I?" He said, "You work with one of the greatest producers that America has ever put together. I'm talking as musical directors and arranger, like Nelson Riddle and all these wonderful people. Well, Don Costa was top of the line." And he said, "There you are, working with Don Costa and all these people." He said, "That's what's turning me on. And I want the audience to know that you're not a quote doo-wop group. No such thing, we're not. You started out in a particular thing in your life, but now you are this." And I said, "Well, what am I? Tell me more." He said, "You are contemporary pop." And he said, "There's nobody like you." I said, "Really? Oh man, this is making me feel good." I'm gonna start asking for more money. Shoot. But it really, what it did was just, it was very stimulating to me to find that one person in time and space would come into your life and totally put you on track. If you drifted away, he made it very clear, this is who you are to us. And that's the way we're gonna present you. And it's caused all kinds of problems with the agencies, and because we've had several agencies watched us. And, all of a sudden they're calling. Wait a minute, who are these guys? Who's this guy? I wrote a little article there the other day that you haven't read yet for that newspaper thing, blog, and I said that, gee, we're being rediscovered in America, literally. I said, I guess if you hang around long enough, people give you things, and it's a ride that, when you're in the business for 50 years, and you've seen and performed with some of the greatest performers in the world. A lot of them are not here with us anymore, but to be out there with just about anybody I played, we just don't know who we didn't play with or didn't know. It always fascinates people when we say, "Oh, Elvis? Yeah, we hung out with him." Priscilla Presley was a very good friend of mine. Elvis? Yeah, we knew Elvis back in St. Louis. We met him in 1958. And he was just blowing up then before he went into the movie situation, And he always liked our music. So whenever he would perform, and we're performing someplace, he's in town or something, he would show up and they go, "Mr. Presley's out there, Elvis Presley, oh my gosh." He came with all those people with him. One was that guy, what's his name, Esposito? Mm-hmm. What's his name? Is it Phil Esposito? Can't remember his name. Something Esposito was his main guy. And my wife, being younger than me, she really didn't know all of this stuff. And I said, "Yeah, I know Elvis." And she goes, "Yes, dear. Yes, you know." Yeah, right. So we're in Palm Springs, and in Palm Springs doing a concert, a summer concert. And all of a sudden this guy comes in, the guy says, "Oh, there's a Esposito, Mr. Esposito's out there." He says, "Tell him I'm Esposito with Elvis." And my wife was standing there. I said, and he came in and grabbed and hugged me. And I said, "Man, tell me, do you know, they're not hanging with you guys, man?" He says, "What?" He says, Elvis loved him, man. You guys used to hang out, go to movies together. He shut down a movie and was Red Fox, me, Jack Carter, the comedian, quite a few of his friends. And so if he wanted to come, it was in Vegas, he would actually shut the movie down, his theater down, buy the theater, and just be his entertaining some friends. We'd come and see movies or boxing. We went to see George Foreman, a boxing match there. So we got to know a lot of people. I think that's what's happening now. When I hooked up with George, we were talking about, we needed somebody to, because when I started talking to George, which talking is not a problem with me, I started telling him a history lesson of all these things that the Imperials now experienced, and that we are not, quote unquote, some little, in a little box group, you know, and that's what we come, you know. And he just sat there and going, and this goes on for sometimes for hours, we just talking. Mm-hmm. And then that's when he said, America's got to know this. And I'm a public relations man, and that's my job. I think I can do this. We got to sit down and get a plan, or whatever they call, what you call it, that project, the other thing you said.
A campaign?
Campaign, yeah, campaign. We got to figure this out. We're going, okay. You know, and we've been doing it. And we started brain trusting on that thing over a year ago. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, it's happening. I mean, we did what did we do? The Songwriters Hall of Fame.
Right, in 2007.
Right, I got called in to do.
You didn't want to do it.
I didn't even know why anybody wanted me there. So he says, no, man, I'm telling you, they told me, all you got to do is give the award to Teddy Randazzo posthumously. Right. To his wife and children were going to be there. And I know their kids and everything, they're all grown. But I get there, and I'm walking, it's all red carpet, and paparazzi's everywhere. I'm going, and I walk in, and there is some of the biggest stars on the planet. They're all there. So I find my little place, you know, my time, wait for my time to get up and read the cue card, give the thing. Every so now and then someone would come up to me, a major rock star, and he goes, you remember me? I played with you in Jersey when I was a kid, man. You inspired me, man. I'm going, what? And I said, I kept wallowing in my seat one point, and I said, hey, Georgie, man, that's Dolly Parton, man. I love her, man. I said, well, the music, Jolene. I love that stuff, you know. And I'm sitting there. He said, well, why don't you go over there and meet us? I'm not going over there, man. She don't know who I am. She doesn't care. And after a while, he knew that wasn't a put on. I'm that kind of person. I just don't. And he went and came back and said, hey, Anthony, he said, come here. And I come over there to Polly. She jumps out of the chair. She's a little girl. She grabs and hugs me and says, oh, I want to meet you so long. And what Georgie's done is he said, you don't know how many people know you. You don't know what it is to be in the business for 50 years and survive and stay at a high level. You don't realize it. And they said that America's got to know that because America loves survivors. And you got to speak, you got to talk, you got to tell people what you're about. You know, maybe you can say something that may help them. When I have always a desire to read. I read a lot. I only got a high school diploma. But I always wanted to go to college, but life, being a singer, didn't work out. But I decided I'm going back to college. Go to junior college in Harbor City, California. And I went in there, and the professor was in there that knew who I was. It happened to be the professor that was taking that particular class was taught law. And he said, you know, Anthony, I love the Imperials. I said, yeah. Oh, blah, blah. So he says, wow, man. I said, well, I just want to come in. I just need to go to college. I just need to know that I didn't lose something and stuff like that. He says, college? Oh, you've been to college. You've been to college of hard knocks. And he said, what you've experienced, we can't teach. You know? And I remembered that. So when I met him, I said, you know, I'm going to start, I'd like to just talk. Anything you want to talk about, basically anything, but in show business, from promotion to public relations to record business, I know it. I just learned it. And I figured if I could tell people to make their lives a little bit easier, you know, the little ins and outs and things that make it a little more, you know, you're able to move a little smoother through it instead of having to go out there and being thrown to the wolves. Because you can learn a lot of stuff in college. They're going to give you all the bookwork. They're going to give you all the words. It's wonderful. It's going to give you all that. But you got to go out there now and put this into action, to reality. And so when you go out there and you don't have the, it can get pretty rough. Now I'm already out there. I've already experienced all of that. So he says, well, then you can speak about it. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're starting here. We'll do a lot more.
Well, you went from End Records to Imperials Plus. How does it feel to have your own label finally?
Yes, yeah, great. As many times I was ripped off? Yeah. I mean, that was a way of life. We came out, we called the Stone Age of rock and roll. And I mean, that was normal. Nobody got paid. You've heard all the stories. Nobody got paid, really. And you know, when you all the years go by, you just singing, having a great time, you're running around and partying and believing you're something, whatever you believe you are, people tell you are. You don't really take the business seriously. I once told somebody that I was 31 years old when I realized, I actually make a living at this. I better buckle down. Because I knew, you ain't no brain surgeon, it's kind of late in life, man. You better make this work. And I realized that up to that point, it was party time. So being able to start a label with Clarence and I meant we had to understand it to know in ourselves. Do we know enough to do this? And we do. So we decided we were going to take advantage of the technology today. You know, even though the record business is at an all-time low, it's really having problems, we were going to take advantage of all the things that technology presented. And we were going to start a little record company, and we were going to start with ourselves. And the dream is that eventually we get other people. But we wanted to do what we wanted to do. Sing the way we wanted to sing, what we felt was creative. And we had to do everything, and it wasn't easy. So here's End Records. We were back in 1958, when I'm 17 years old. They did all of that for you. You didn't have to worry about nothing. Unfortunately, that's a bad thing as well, because then now you don't know your business. And it is called show business. So you don't know it. And so we get ripped off for years and years and years. Now, here we are now, the masters of the plantation. You know, we own the house. And there is an empowerment about that. Because black folk down in the South always say this, we don't need nobody to help us do bad. We can do bad by ourselves. You know, so it's like we've learned that. So to me, here we are. We got all of the budget that all the big companies got, but there's something very intriguing and exciting about taking that shot, that chance, and see what happens, man. Because if it hits, that's going to be good. Yeah, that's good. I like this thing we're doing. And we're able to do this. We're able to do the things we wanted to do. And that's when we started growing a little bit. We said, well, we need a lawyer. Protect us. And then he introduced us to him. And then you introduced us to someone else. And everybody understood where we were going and saw that dream. And I just say this. That's the one thing I like to tell young people and older people. There's one of the biggest, worst things you could possibly do is have people define you. You know, you have to define you. Taking a chance or taking any kind of thing, it doesn't matter what your age is. Grandma Moses, who was she, 80-something years old when she painted that great painting? Red Fox was 58 years old when he made it. George Burns was 87 when he had a so-called comeback. I remember when he was with the Burns and Allen, Gracie Allen. Back in the radio days, I ain't gonna tell you my age. That way back. And I can count all the people that made these wonderful strides where age had nothing to do with it. We are very fortunate and very blessed to be born in a country where sounds like a cliche, anything can happen. You could do it. You could do anything. Once you understand and you're focused about doing it. Because you don't allow other people to tell you, you can't do it, you can't do that. And I had a couple of guys say, You gonna go talk at the school, man? Like, how can a high school guy says, I can, and I'll do it, and do more. Because when you pay your dues, you've been in the business so many years, you develop so much knowledge. Explode, if you don't get it out, explode. Your head will go. So this is an opportunity for me to get out and just talk to people, and they can ask me questions and stuff. And I can tell them it's great to be in the recording business. It beats somebody else running your life, that's for sure.
Anthony, you've gone from doing 22 million singles, 45 records, to doing in one day 25,000 downloads.
That was weird. The technology again. iTunes, Rhapsody. This is where most of major artists are going. I told them today, I said, just turn on VH1, because MTV went another world. They went into reality television. But VH1 is still doing videos. And if you notice, like, they always have who the company is and the artist, always. Now you see the artist name, and you can download this on Rhapsody. You can download this on iTunes. This is every young person, especially in college, everybody uses, you guys were raised up on computers. So it's no big deal to do that. So that's where technology helped us to start the record company, because we could never have the kind of funds like the big companies have to do that, but we have an outlet. So when we did Letterman, overnight, we just found out we had sold 25,000 records, like that. We don't know, every time we do something, we're selling. And now, any artist, if they get, I don't care who they are, they ain't gonna get more than 7 cents, and if they're really good, 10 cents a song, or 10 cents a record or CD. You know, come on, after all the expenses and everything taken out. People think the artists are getting this big money from royalties. No, they get it if they're writers. They get it if they're publishers. Yeah, they get that but from sales, they don't make no money, man. Because when they finish with all the stuff they do and promotion and stuff, and they present you with the bill, when you're waiting for your royalties, they deduct that stuff out. You owe them. See? So it's not that. When you see all these big artists, even today, that's not where they're getting the money. What they're getting the money from is basically from writing and publishing. That's how Smokey got it. And in some instances, record companies have come in and gave people a lot of money to sign them, but it's not guaranteed money. It's just like sports. It's just like baseball, football, not guaranteed. Sounds great, but a lot of stuff ain't guaranteed. So what you want is the signing bonus. That's where you make your money. So if you're really fortunate and you're really hot, they may come in, if there's any record companies left, and say, I'll give you $3, $4, $5, $10 million for that. I want to take it over. They know that they can bring that record in for their stockholders. They're going to make money. So they'll give that kind of money, but that artist doesn't care because they made a ton of money like that. They're not worried about any 10 cents. They're not going to make any money from sales. Not going to happen.
Well, just 2 weeks ago, you were nominated as an inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I know that was one of the dreams that you were shooting for.
Yeah, it's very political, unfortunately. It's not like a bunch of people just vote. I wish you guys can vote. You know, just like they just take the public vote, it would work great. A lot of people, we would say a lot of people in there that shouldn't be,
right.
and a lot of people that they shouldn't. And it's just like sports, the same thing. There are some baseball players that are not in the Baseball Hall of Fame for reasons I do not understand. When their record is way far better than the person that's in there. I don't understand that. So I got to the point, and I told George, I said, you know what, man? Whatever people decide I am, when I leave this earth, history's going to prove that, whatever I am. I won't know about it, but my grandchildren will. You know, if I leave anything, a legacy, then I'll leave that. But it's a weird business. It's exhilarating, but really challenging. Any part of this business, it's challenging. When we talk about the public relation business, it ain't easy.
When we first discussed this, and this goes back about a year ago, June, I said to Anthony, well, it's not normal voting people that get you into the Rock and
No.
Roll Hall of Fame. This is a artist clique. By and large, the nomination process is 600 people. That's who decides whether you ultimately get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or not. Of course, if you lobby properly and you get the right people behind you, they speak to other people and then it works.
That's I didn't cut you off. That's where his job came in. His job was to lobby and know how to get through the maze and the tape. First of all, just to get their ear. Now, if you're worthy, you got to get to those people's ear because they're not going to know. They're jaded. They're not going to know. You know, they go by the whatever little rules or whatever they've created. So they're not going to know. So he said, and I said that, he said, oh no, he said, you're going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I said, yeah, right. You know? And he kept doing all kinds of things, and I said, you know, we got it.
Well,
Nominated.
fortunately, because of my profession, there's a lot of people that I've gotten to know. And in the odd thing about it, in this past year, I can't tell you, at least 100 people that I knew previously have come back into my life. And a lot of them were instrumental here with Anthony. Bob Merliss from Warner Brothers Records is a perfect example. I had called Merliss, who's a longtime friend of mine, and told him that I want you to pay attention to Little Anthony Imperials. And he categorically told me, no. He said, I don't care about them. They don't mean anything to me. And I said,
That's what we got.
you're going to care about them. So, and he said, how can you tell me that? Lo and behold, Anthony and Clarence Collins, his partner, the other two Imperials, go to the Heroes and Legends benefit in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
And sang, did you sing a cappella?
Well, what happened was Smokey Robinson they were all there. They had a lot of R&B stars.
Earth, Wind and Fire.
Earth, Wind, everybody was there, getting these awards. We got an award. And we got it because our peers knew it. I don't know how we got it. So when I got up on stage, Jim Gilstrap, who works with us in the recording thing, started playing the thing in the background. The girl said, dum da 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 da. He kept doing it, and somebody said, "Hey, sing it." I think it was Smokey did it. Smokey's crazy.
Sounds like it.
So he's, I'll sing some, man. And we start singing it. And when we just picked it off the air, I started singing it, and all of a sudden, the whole room got quiet. Really quiet. And I'm not thinking anything about it, so I stop, and Smokey says, yeah, yeah, yeah. And all the guys were, cool. I get off the stage. He called, what was it, a few days?
Bob Merliss then emailed
He
me
was
back.
there.
He said that he's sitting at the table with Smokey, Verdine White, and the other guys from Earth, Wind and Fire. And he said, Anthony was amazing. And he said, now I know why you bugged me. I'm going to start lobbying to get them in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Bob Merliss is on the board. I knew that was a good start. I knew we already had somebody in our corner. Fate, we're in Newark last December. Anthony's performing at Symphony Hall, and the promoter comes in and says, Paul Simon's coming.
Yeah.
So Anthony says, oh, Paul's an old friend of
I
ours.
knew him
We toured together.
back in the day.
And I went, Anthony, no offense, but Paul Simon's not going to come down on a snowy night in December to Newark unless there's a reason he wants to come down here, and he's going to ask you something. Lo and behold, he asked him, to make a very long story short, to be a part of the Cape Man production that he was going to do at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. The biggest problem that he had with Cape Man, as you recall, 10 years ago, it was closed in one day on Broadway. The biggest problem was that everybody said it glamorized the murders. Their problem on bringing this production back was, how do you put people into a time capsule, get them to rivet and pay attention to the music? Think of it in a West Side Story framework. Phil Ramone, right?
Phil Ramone, who saw us in Jersey with
Bobby Rydell?
Bobby Rydell, yeah. And we were doing that car show. He happened to be there because he was a friend of somebody. He then called Paul Simon, and as I got it, he says, man, that project going to do? There's only two groups I know, he said, because Phil Ramone is one of the most respected and honored producers in the world. He could sing a cappella like that. One is Take Six, and us. He said, I never heard anything like that. So Paul was curious, and he came back, he came and saw us, and next thing I know, he was in our dressing room, we're just sitting there. He says, yeah, if you know Paul Simon, he goes, Yeah. And I'll be getting in touch with you guys. Something like that.
Right.
I'm doing
He
something.
said, I'm working on something.
working on something.
And I want you to be a part of it.
I said, that's nice.
Right.
I didn't hear anything for a couple of months, and then bam, George calls. And he says, guess what? You're going to be with him in this play. The play is doing it for 1 week, and bam. And I said, well, where will we play? What will we do? Well, just like George said, what happened was they didn't do the play with all the dialogue because it just bring back bad memories. What he did, though, he took out a lot of great music that was in it, capsulized it into a sort of a mini musical that told the story without having any dialogue. And he put it together, but he needed something to bring people back to that time. He said, I heard you do Just Two Kinds of People in the World. What, wasn't that 1958? I said, yeah. He said, yeah, do that. Because I was telling him, man, we could do this and that, and, we use your band. He says, no, I want to sing a cappella. We said, a cappella? He says, can you do, what was the other one? Tears in My Pillow. A cappella. Says, never tried it. But in show business, you never say you can't do anything. If you say you can ride a horse, yeah. You learn, or you don't get the gig, So I said, yeah, we could do it. Then he hears with Shibby Shibby Cocoa. I said, come on, that's a whole different kind of rhythm. I'll do that. That's going to be really a little bit of a problem. And we solved it by bringing our drummer in, doing a drumming thing, almost like a click in the side, just really so we can hear it. And then we got the key from the pianist, and then we went for it. And what they did was, if you know anything about Brooklyn, it's right there by the big clock, BAM is. And when we were kids, we played in that street. I live several blocks down the street. So we came up with a little idea in the dressing room. I said, well, wait, because he left us to figure out something. He says, I want you to make an entrance. Can you do something? And so we figured it out. I said, look, guys, when we're backstage, they'll open up the mics. We'll just be talking casually, ad-libbing. And we will walk out like we were kids again, coming back to this one spot. And as we walked out, we said, oh, well, look, hey, the clock. We were just visualizing the place is packed. Couldn't have a pin drop. And we walk out, and he put a light that made it look like we were on a stoop. It was very impressive. You see, I'm excited about it. That made us look like we were on some kind of street corner in a stoop. So that brought the time capsule, got the audience to thinking where he wanted them to go. Paul Simon's a very, very bright dude. And he knew he had to get him back in that time. And we just said, yeah, and let's sing some of the things we used to do. Remember we used to do the kids? Yeah, you always do it in the subway. Let's do this thing at a cappella. What song is that? Let's do Two People in the World, man. Let's do that. And the audience went, couldn't hear a pin drop. And we did it. And the place went. Now they understand. And we did all these songs. And after that, here comes all this Latin music and all this big, production. And they said this, you need to take this thing on the road. Take it anywhere. Take it on the road. He's still thinking about it.
Yeah, I know.
And he's still thinking about touring with it. And so by being with him, we got another ally. I didn't mention anything to him, but he was very instrumental in that. And then Georgie says, there's a groundswell. There's something going on. He said, now, Anthony, it's now taking on its life of its own.
Well, we also did some more lobbying. At the after party, Liz Rosenberg is there, and Liz Rosenberg represents Madonna, another old, longtime friend of mine. And so she wanted to know, we hadn't seen each other in years, and once said, well, who are you working with? I said, I'm here with Little Anthony. She says, I love Little Anthony.
Didn't know.
And so she said, can you introduce me?
Yeah.
And I went, yeah. So she meets Anthony, and so she said, what can I do for you guys? They said, you can help us lobby to get us into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so she said, I'll talk to Seymour Stein, I'll talk to Madonna.
That's what she said.
She said, and I'll see who else I can get. And that's, I really believe.
It started the ball rolling, and not only just this is the power of, this is really the art form of public relations. What he does, PR, anybody wants to get in that business, that's unique, because I'm going, yeah, baby, keep going, So it just took on its own life, and out of that, we are running to Billy Joel, and Billy's telling me that we were instrumental in him getting in the business. He says, man, you don't know. A lot of girls, man, blah, blah. He's saying, telling us all this stuff. And he said, yeah. And so we didn't think about it again. Well, Billy comes and does the Shea Stadium. He's like 50,000 people, several months ago in there. And he calls me and says, guess what? I don't know if you saw on the internet or somebody called you or something.
I read it. I read it in the New York Times.
Yeah, right.
That he dedicated a song to Little Anthony Imperials, the only song he dedicated in the whole show. And, you know, half the battle of working with Anthony and the guys was, I realized that they had really been overlooked. They had been just completely overlooked in this industry. And I, first of all, it galled me. Number two, I thought, oh, wait a minute, next year's their 50th anniversary.
Yeah,
this just gets better. And 50th anniversary, and then of course Anthony in his wonderful way says, yeah, but we broke up for years. And I said, that has nothing to do with anything. It's still, you've been in business, it's still in show business, right?
Actually, I was surprised when we said 50. I said, we've been there 50 years? He says, 58, 2000. I said, ooh. I didn't realize.
But it really is the hook that worked in the campaign, because everybody's reaction was, you guys have been doing this for 50 years.
50 years? And then all of a sudden, I'm having the weirdest things happen. I mean, I played Pittsburgh last week. We played to a full house at the Benedum. It was called Little Anthony Imperials' 50th anniversary. Full house. The night before, the promoter took us out to dinner, Clarence and I, and then he took us to a show in the Benedum that night before with an Italian singer, love song singer by the name of Capriccio, or Capricci. I get mad if I remember his name. And he's a very handsome young man. And he's singing all the la-di-la, la-da-dee, and all of the Italian women, they're all falling out. I'm going, who is that? I asked, who is that guy? He says, well, he's one of the most, he's like revered all over the world. And he says that he was a protege of Pavarotti. And I said, really? Yeah. And he wants to meet you. And then I said, really? And he says he's coming to the show. So I thought, well, he won't come to the, I don't know. He comes to the show with his manager and everything. And he's backstage. And he says to me, you know, I learned English in Italy by listening to American music. And I listen to your music. And then I realized, wait a minute, that's the same guy. You know? And he's telling me how all of the guys were so into the love song singing American singers. And I find out I'm included in that bunch. And I didn't know. He said, oh, your music. Oh, he's running this whole thing. And then he's picking my brain. Here's a guy that flies over the world. He has thousands of people in arenas, and he's on PBS with all his big orchestra and everything. And he's asking me advice. Who knew? You know, it's strange business. All starting a year ago with this campaign he had, breaking down these little tricks and all things he's learned over the years, how to call on people he knew. And they began to focus into us. Our job was to go out there and kill him. And it makes his job easier. And we would do it, and things, just weird things. Then Jeff Greenberg calls from CBS. Now Jeff Greenfield does you know, the CBS Morning News, and he's a political guy. Besides, his producer, they wanted to do a thing on doo-wop singers of Brooklyn. Right. I don't know. He was a big fan of all those songs. Actually, he saw me at the Brooklyn Paramount when he was a kid, and the Brooklyn Fox. So he had this idea to do that. But once he met us, we started out in this over on J Street in Brooklyn.
Holiday Inn,
whatever, that Marriott Hotel.
Marriott, yeah.
We were only going to walk down Fulton Street, just do a little talking, but it was really loud, and the buses were going, and people were running around, and that sound man was having a lot of trouble. He says, if only, man, we can go someplace like where they live and stuff. I said, where I live? I used to live right there. I point right there. He said, right there? Throw everybody in the cars. They threw all the cameramen, everybody in the cars. We go to where I used to live, which is entirely different when I was a kid. I mean, it's the hood of hoods now, man. And all them brothers over there, man, we come rolling all these cameras.
Drug
and go,
dealers.
Yeah, they wonder what's going on here. And you couldn't have written it better. It started out as doing this doo-wop thing, but I'm talking and re-educating him about what we did, and he started realizing it, and then it got way from the doo-wop thing, and it got into who we were and where we go. Who could have asked? George started laughing. I am going, I can't believe this. The guys started, old people that knew my mother, that knew Clarence's sister, they were looking at, they start coming out of the buildings. I know you as a kid. You used to run over there in that candy store and all this, and the camera's going, keep that camera going, keep that camera going. All starting a year ago with an idea.
This
and
is finally going to air in December. Yeah. And if you understand the way television works, even though we did this segment in the summer, now because they're going to air it in December, they want to film Anthony and the guys in a winter scene so that they can have some sort of continuity
because we walk
into
around
how they
summertime.
want to do this. And the biggest delay is because Jeff Greenfield is so tied up with politics that he can't finish his own segment. On the other hand, the beauty of it was where the drug dealers were hysterical.
Yeah, that was funny.
I mean,
yeah,
they kept calling Jeff Greenfield
Jerry Springer.
Jerry Springer.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry Springer! And I don't know if Jeff Greenfield caught on.
I don't know. Jeff's got a kind of a straight sort of Midwestern sort of attitude.
So once that was locked in, the next thing was to get to USA Today Weekend magazine, which I knew I could do, because if I've got a group that's going to be on David Letterman, and I already got a CBS network correspondent that's already doing a segment, I already have a story here. This is already something happening and that nobody knows about, and you have to tip it off. So ideally, the Sunday before the Letterman show, photos in the Sunday magazine section, and in case whether you realize it or not, there's only 2 Sunday magazine sections. It's Parade or USA Today in the whole country. It's a 22 million circulation. And you got to be in the numbers business here. And the campaign with Anthony and the Imperials, I really felt was imperative. Like I said, I felt they were overlooked. We need to be in the numbers. We needed to be on television. We needed to be in big publications. Even on the other hand, though, you can't neglect publications that have origin and have roots, like Jet magazine. One of my students said to me, "What's Jet magazine?" And and it was the most honest comment, because there are people who are just not exposed to those kind of publications. Mm-hmm. Jet magazine, on the other hand, the same story. The 50th was a hook, and all we needed then, luckily, we connived BAM at giving us photos of them performing live on stage, and the piece was done.
I got all these calls from one of my friends, Bubba Knight, Gladys Knight's brother. He says, "Hey man, I was on a plane and I'm reading this Jet. You guys, what's going on there?" I don't know, man. I'm just, and it's just, if anybody wants to get in the PR business, it's a good way to learn how it works. It's a people business, man. It's strictly a people business. You can know all the nuances, but you're going to have to make friends.
Anthony brought up a very interesting point. He felt that the black audience had deserted them at a given point. And probably so. But you can't let that be a negative. You have to bring that audience back into the picture. It's integral to who they are. A group or an artist, when you're doing a campaign, should never lose its origin and what it believes in and what it is. And the campaign has worked really well. We were talking about it today. It's working better, and like Anthony said, it took a life on of its own. On the other hand, there's been some really bad times. I mean, you told me terrible stories about racism that you experienced.
Well, even again, we ended up getting a call from that guy, Griffin. Carl Griffin, who was Sammy Davis's cat, and he's one of the best stage managers in the business. He does a lot of Broadway plays and stuff like that. Well, we've been friends, black dude. We all came up, but he went into theater, really, the high class theater. And we always stayed friends and talked on the phone. And he said, man, I'm working for Quincy Jones Company, and we're doing one of the biggest, like, what's the name of that guy? Ken Burns type thing. Was like 5 or 6 days where they talk about American music from A to B. Doesn't matter who you are. Well, they've done Paul Newman. They got him down before he passed away, was last year. they've just about, the idea was to get 100 and some odd artists around the world that have performed or been involved in America, with American music and American experience. They got Jay-Z, they got 50 Cent, they got, gosh, everybody's on that thing. Madonna.
Well, Quincy brought in everybody.
Quincy has that pull. And I asked, he says, you know, man, I've been telling them cats, because I told George, I mean, this guy's different. So he says, I told him, if you don't put Little Anthony Imperials on, this is a disgrace. He said, they've been around, they've developed their own thing, in this business, and they're Americana, man. You just don't understand their audiences or where they're coming from. And then I get a call later on, they decided to do it. Because I knew Q. Well, we call him Q, Quincy. And I don't know why, but they did. We were doing the BAM, so I had that day before going to do the show, I had to go over to the place where they were doing it, and Beyonce just left. A bunch of other people just left. Paul Simon was there the day before. And I went in and became very animated and began to speak. And what was supposed to be a half-hour interview ended up being over 2 hours and a half. And it didn't, what they saw, what I enjoyed was, again, quote unquote, perception sometimes is reality. I'm not a doo-wop singer. I came from there, but I grew up. You just didn't see me grow up. And I got so animated that they called back and they says, man, the producers are going, whoa. We're doing some really heavy editing here. Man, the things you talked about, we couldn't even get it out of none of the artists. You was telling us about the South and how it was to be in the early 60s and be exposed to that sort of life. How you almost were shot and killed. How we saw people get killed. And he said to me, the producer said, my God, the man's Americana. He's lived it. And I didn't even know I did, So now I'm finding out things about what I took for granted. What did Rich Flanzer say? Rich is trying to do the DVD with Big, that's another story. He says to me, you're an icon. I said, what's an icon? He says, you don't understand. We're gonna let everybody know. Well, saying all of that, I just believe, now I'm convinced, without public relations, PR people are the key to any artist. To be a good PR person, know what you're doing and how to do it. It's very rewarding, very noble profession to do that, because you're literally like the captain on the steering the boat, steering the plane to get to someplace. And without that, it wouldn't happen, because we wouldn't have thought of all of that, or to call this one, or he would call me and he says, you get the New York Post, don't you? I said, yeah, I'm in New York. I get it prescribed. I live in Vegas, but I get all the New York papers. I said, yeah, turn to something, page something. And I turned and it had this stuff about, who's that lady, whatever her name is?
Cindy Adams.
Cindy Adams. I've never been to Cindy Adams. I felt good, man, because, And then another guy, and then the Daily News, and he kept sending these things. I was like, George, how you doing that, man? He says, hey, it ain't easy, but that's what I do. Cold.
Sure.
About the music. George and I have known over the years different artists that have had their early successes, and then they try to record a song and have it be current. But they're not able to get the right sound. And I noticed on your new CD that your sound is so contemporary. So I was wondering what artists, younger artists or artists that are around now that you listen to, that you were able to keep your finger on contemporary music.
I love music. My father was a jazz musician. He played alto and tenor sax, played with a lot of big bands. Buddy Johnson's orchestra, he played a little with Count Basie. So I was always around music from day one. So I got to know, and I met Duke Ellington, his little boy, at the Savoy. I spent time with some of the finest people in the world, from Moms Mabley on, long before. I also was a child actor. A lot of people don't know that. I was raised in the stage, theater. I've never been out of a theater since I was 3 years old. It's a way of life. And all these things, came into play. So I hope that, and the younger artists, the younger ones that are out there, yeah, you know, a lot of the older singers or whatever, they have a problem. And what it is they think they're still recording stars. No, they're not. Beyonce's recording star today. Jay-Z's recording star. Madonna's, or whatever, whoever it is, you see. They're the recording stars. What they lacked to do was the transition of becoming performing stars. And the person that helped us the most in that was Sammy Davis. Sammy Davis' wife is Alta V's. Her real name is Joni Gore. We were raised together. So I knew Sammy. We used to always hang with Sammy. And he would hold court and speak to us about what he says. We said to him, well, man, it's hard to get a deal. He says, deal? And he gets excited. And he says, hey, man, deal? I never had no deal. I mean, I had to perform. I got my nose broken. He runs this whole thing, you know, what he went through, you know, like my father did about the Depression. Same thing. And he goes through all of this. But we're picking his brain. I'm picking his brain. And he's teaching us, you got to be a performer. So what we did was took that to heart. And so basically, when we got to Vegas, we met Eartha Kitt. We met all these people that we hung with. They were there, was a part of a society of people, of performers. Louis Prima, Sam Butera. I can go on and on and on. We were with them learning. Now, all the other acts I came out to, quote unquote, doo-wop acts, were still doing doo-wop. They never left. They never left. They just never saw them say that they had to go another step. I have a great belief that the training I had as a young actor and being in theater as a kid came into play, because it seemed very natural to me to move on and to grow as a performer, as opposed to cats just sang some doo-wop songs and then they had a hit record and that was it, or we call one-hit record wonders, or whatever we call. And they didn't do it. So what happens, we moved and transitioned into a performing act. And over the years, we learned, I knew Robert Klein, the comedian, we used to work together with him up in the Boss circuit. When other groups were never working, we were doing all the bungalows in the Catskill Mountains. We had to learn Yiddish, learn how to sing songs. Eli, 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 lo, asof tohni, Eli, Eli, lo, asof tohni, mikva unfla, achme unskibe, all that stuff we had to do. We learned from the bottom up how to perform. So we didn't know that this was planting seed to this moment, that we would be with him and be in it 50 years and survive 50 years. We didn't know. And but I see these kids that they'll look at us and they'll artists go, how did you do that, man? That's hard work. I mean, that's how we did it. We just kept going in that direction. We believed Red Fox. We believed Moms Mabley. We believed these wonderful people who've been there. And they liked us and they were just telling us how to keep going, how to make it better. Sammy Davis said to Gregory Hines, and Gregory told me, and Gregory was a kid coming up, we were all living in the same neighborhood. He was behind Hines and Dad. And he told me, he said, Sammy said to all the guys, man, listen. He says, I'm passing the ball, before he died. So what he meant was, now you take what I gave you, what I told you, like I was told, by Stump and Stumpy. All Bert Williams. You guys probably know Bert Williams. He was the first black man to do a blackface. In order to keep the gig, he had to make himself blackface, and he was black. And he became a great star, Broadway star. And then I get to meet a lot of these people. I met them all, you know, and they influenced me, and then in turn, I, as the front man, influenced the guys, Clarence and Ernest and them. So we sort of grew that way. And so all these artists that are back there, they don't know. I hope that answered your question. And as far as the younger artists today, yeah, man. I mean, there's some good and bad. There was good and bad then. You know, there's always something good or something bad. There's some really good ones I really like. And we got really, really, really good.
You know, Anthony, you were telling me about how you used to tour in Jersey with Bruce Springsteen opening up.
Yeah, he opened up first. Route 40. Didn't nobody know who he was. I didn't know who he was. Max Weinberg played the drum. He says, man, I remember you. We used to play, man, we used to hang out. And so all these people, and what has happened with us now, they're coming back in our lives. It's odd. They're all coming back. But what's beautiful about it is he ends up meeting, or he knows somebody, and another guy, Richard Flanders, says, it's amazing. Every time I call somebody, I always get a call back when it comes to you guys. So what's happening with his campaign of doing this is, like he said, I've got to get the people to know that you're there. And he said, you know how to talk. I'm going to start getting you, we talked about it. I said, we're going to start going around and letting people hear what goes down, because I think they need to know, especially students and young people, that there are, that maybe hopefully they can pick up something that make their life a little bit easier. Try and get in the business.
You were also friends with Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Which, when I heard those tales, I couldn't even imagine you and Bob Marley being on the same island.
Yep, he was a little kid. He was about 13, 14 years old. There's a man by the name of Don Taylor who ended up being our manager, but we made him our valet first in Jamaica, because he'd run off and get stuff for all the artists, He had no shoes, so one day we all bought him shoes. Just because he was running around getting he was a gopher. Ended up being one of the most powerful managers in the business, but he started with us. And he brings this kid around, and this little skinny kid, and he really has that brogue, And he says, I want you to be an athlete. He says, I sure like you, Mr. Anthony. Yeah, man. I'm going to be in show business, man. We said, yeah, right. And he hung around, and then we kept going back and forth to the islands over the years, and then next thing we know, he's like 17. He's got this bunch of guys called the Whalers. So there's a man by the name, the guy that ran Island Records.
Chris Blackwell.
Chris Blackwell. How we met him? We met him in the islands, and he had a studio there. So he was the first one tapping into reggae music. And we heard it for really the first time. I think we were the first people that really heard it in the business. And then we started going down into Trench Town, and we started hearing Bob, and we knew something was going on here. And he went into the studios. He invited us one day, and he was doing, we were there when he sang the song, I Shot the Sheriff. I was sitting right in the studio. I said, that's bad, man. The sheriff. And no one knew what was going to go down. He's right, and he wrote everything. And he just, and so we knew him all these. I introduced my wife, Linda, to him. She got blown out. Oh, Mrs. Anthony. Mrs. Anthony. And then it just was a friendship that grew, and we grew. I actually toured with him when he was really big. That was nice.
Mm. Anybody have questions?
George mentioned before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Anthony. Would that be the pinnacle for you? Is that important for you to be recognized by that institution? Or?
I think any artist would be lying to you if they say they weren't, because that tells you that your peers have given you the stamp of approval. I think any sports guy would be lying to you, tell you if he didn't want to be in the. He may cover it up, he'll say, I don't care, he cares. Because that's your peers telling you did a good job. So, and you survive that long, and you're able to get that kind of recognition, yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, being put in the Long Island Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was pretty cool for me, with Bennett and Billy Joel and all these people. I got to meet a lot of people. And to be put in this thing, yeah, it's sort of be a vindication that we always thought that, didn't we have a lot of hit records? I would say, what do you have to do? One guy says, you can't get in unless you got a Grammy. Oops, we don't have a Grammy, so we're done. And I really believed that until I met you. You said, who told you that? I said, I don't know. Somebody told me that you needed the Grammys. Nah, you don't need no Grammy. You guys got enough stuff that, we just need to work at that.
Going back to your own label, when did you form that?
Actually, Clarence, who's the founder of the Imperials, when we were kids, he found me. That's another story. He put this label together called Imperial Plus. Now, why he did that, I'm going to ask Clarence why he did that.
I don't know why he called it.
I don't know. He called it Imperial Plus. Well, it became dormant. They didn't do anything for years and years and years and years. So when we got back together and we started deciding to do this venture, we needed a name. He says, we don't need a name. I already got the rights to Imperial Plus. He says, works out good. See, Imperials, you're plus. Okay, so we got with each other. We went to the legal thing. We signed for each other as partners, did all the right things, and that's what we called it. We had nothing. We had no artists. We got no money. We got nothing. All we had was a dream. You never stop dreaming. And I'm 67. I don't stop dreaming. Do that, you're dead. And then we just, and a lot of people say, oh, it's too late. You guys don't want to do that. So why? They go defining you again. No, I want my own record company, then because we can do what we want to do if we ever get any money. Well, you know what? A very wealthy man got in our lives. It's Norm Zeta in L.A. and invited us to his giant mansion. And we went up and told him our story. And he said, what would that, how much would you need for that? I said, I don't know. Class is all about 80,000. We start, that'll work, you know. And he says, bring me the proposal, put it all together on paper and show me that way, because he's strictly into that sort of thing. And we did. We ran off and got people that we knew to help us. And we went back to LA and we walked in and we did the whole thing. And then he said, you got it, fellas. We did all the contract work, signed the papers, got everything right in. We was in business. Yes, darling.
What is your favorite song in your catalog?
In this particular one? Or any song? Oh, I hurt so bad.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe I was hurt so bad. Teddy Rondazzo wrote from his experiences with the love affair he had with his wife. That was a Hollywood big deal. I mean, it was really bad. And she took up a lot of money, I guess. And so he wrote, and he told me when I met him many years ago when I was real young, but then he said, one of these days we'll work together. So when we hooked up in 63, or 64 it was, I can't remember, with Don Costa, he told me, you know, man, you're going to be my voice. I'm going to write, and you're going to be my voice, because he said, I know you understand what I'm trying to say in my lyric. And we did the first song was Outside Looking In. Obviously, he was on the outside looking in with his wife. Then it was Going Out of My Head, because he was trying to get back with her. Then it was Hurt So Bad, because they got totally divorced. Then he went to this period where he needed to have her back, so he wrote Take Me Back. So just by watching him, and my experience as an actor kicked in. I'm starting to deal with him as a character base, and I would put it in my voice and in the music. And exactly how a person would feel verbally, I tried to put it in my voice to get that expression over, so that hopefully people will go, whoa, yeah, I can relate to that. And even this day I write like that. I mean, I don't know, they tell me I'm one of the last cats, man, that really do that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know. I love Johnny, man. I'm going to see him Saturday, by the way. Yeah. And Johnny does that. Johnny, when he was younger, was more.
Right.
He got a little bit jaded. I ain't going to tell him that, because then I won't get no free tickets. So, but that's, yeah, Hurt So Bad was, I think because that one, Nancy Wilson told me that was the best one she recorded it, Sinatra recorded it, a lot of people. And the singers knew, they can sense it. Wow, what powerful lyrics, man. I know you don't know what I'm going through. Excuse me. I think I'm lying. Standing here looking at you.
You said your father was a jazz musician and alto saxophonist. Growing up in Brooklyn, I mean, obviously many greats came out of Brooklyn in the jazz scene. I'm a baritone saxophonist.
Yeah.
Did you ever cross paths with Cecil Payne?
I never met Cecil Payne, I met a lot of other people. We were talking about Grover Cleveland.
Yeah.
The Modern Jazz Quartet. Be friends with Miles Davis. We were good friends with Miles. We used to hang out. See, you're a young cat. There was a place there called the Village Gate years ago in New York City. And you had the Village Vanguard. So because I was raised with jazz, that's what I listen to today. I also listen to classical music, but nobody can figure that one out. I go to operas. I'm a Verdi fan, Puccini. Gosh, yeah, man. I met a lot of dudes. Especially my dad. Yeah. Ooh, I met a bunch of. I'm just thinking about that, man. Whoa. Herbie Hancock, when he was young. The trumpet player, what's his name? We knew when he was coming out of college. I forget his name. Okay, Hubert Laws. Hubert Laws, I met him when he was in Juilliard, and somebody had told him, a guy, Rainey, one famous bass player,
Rainey?
Chuck Rainey. I knew Chuck from, I don't know where I knew Chuck from. He said, I needed to have a guitar player to go to the Nassau, Bahamas at a place called the Cat and Fiddle, which was this young comedian on the show with me. His name was Flip Wilson. Didn't know who he was. Met him there. And he came, he said, oh, I can, you know the old story, I could do that. Well, he played several instruments, I didn't know. I thought he was just a guitar player. He says, and he asked me, hey, can I take my axe with me, man, my sax? You know, I like to play, fool around. I said, you play sax? Oh, yeah, I don't care. So he took his sax, and one day they were jamming in the club after the show. They were just fooling around jamming with the band. Then he took out a flute, and the entire place went quiet. Rest is history. And he played for me. The first gig he ever had was with me. He even said it in the story. So when people talk to me and they think, and I tell them, they're not doo-wop. I've experienced things that not entertainers never experienced. It was there.
I mean, going back to the jazz influence of your father, growing up in Brooklyn and growing up in the 40s and 50s when, you know, you had like Charlie Parker running around.
Yeah, I wish I would have met him. I didn't meet him. Yeah, it was good.
You know, Dizzy, you know, you had the whole
Met Dizzy.
bebop, you had the
Yeah.
whole bebop movement
Mm-hmm.
in African American music happening there that was also led to the civil rights, and you know, that was like the first real big push musically as sort of a protest music coming out of the swing era. And you had Duke Ellington, who was in that swing era, the Cotton Club type era. I mean, were you pulled into jazz initially as a musician before you came, or you said you were a child actor?
Yeah, I was influenced because my dad had all them records. And he would play all them people. Eleanor's Jacket. The first cat that really, we Stan Kenton. I started listening to that. Then I graduated to one day I heard this guy. I don't know, Louis Jordan was, I love Louis Jordan. I think he was the first guy to ever rap back in '48. I was a kid and I remember Louis Jordan. But there was this guy that was playing, and my father bought a record and he started playing, and it was different than anything I've heard. That was Charlie Parker. And I said, everybody was listening to it like going, what is that? But after a while, everybody got into it. And that led for me to John Coltrane, who was influenced by Charlie Parker.
Did you ever meet Coltrane?
I used to go to Village Gate, met him and his wife, Alice. They had a problem, but I met him. It was weird, we met him. But
yeah, well, when you met him with Alice,
he was out there, man.
Another,
But you know,
he was in that Interstellar.
ooh, but it worked though. I mean, we were sitting there, everybody was like mesmerized. And you know, Alice would sit the piano like this. So I thought she was looking at the keys. Ooh, Alice was wiped out. But she played by instinct. And yeah, I met Coltrane, and he didn't know who we was. It's because I got introduced to him, and he says, what, who? I've been in rock and roll. I said, I ain't in rock and roll, man. He said, no, these cats are cool and stuff, and got to talking to him, and then he got a little warmed up and stuff like that. And one day, Miles came in there, and we came and did a gig one day. We said, Mr. Miles Davis here. I guess he was curious. And he walked in. That was so cool, you know? And then he came back and said, man, yeah, you know, Miles talk like this. Yeah, man, you know, that's nice, man, but you need a little more thing right there, little horns and things. You need to tell your producer, man, you know, that's how he talked.
I mean, did you, that experience with Miles, I mean, you go back to talking about how a lot of artists don't make that transition to a performing artist. Miles made every transition.
Oh my gosh, that man made more. He was like a million. He's like a chameleon, man. That guy went from one thing to another.
Is that like something that you watched coming up?
Yes, I did. I don't know. It just seemed natural to me. I think we're created to be creative And you never stop being creative if you allow yourself to be that way. Once you get defined, like I said, then you can really stop cold. Miles wouldn't let that happen. And if Miles felt like playing to the wall, he played to the wall. Because to him, it sounded good playing to the wall. And that made him Miles. And how he went to different transitions. A lot of them guys came out of Billy Eckstine's orchestra.
Right.
A lot of them cats came out of Billy Eckstine's orchestra. Billy was a great baritone singer. Arthur Price-Hawk, Red Price-Hawk, his brother.
Johnny Hartman?
Never met Johnny. I would have loved. My dad played with Johnny Hartman. Yeah, he told me stories about him, and I read the records. Oh man, he was very, very smooth dude. But I met a lot of cats. I met a lot of cats in Duke Ellington's band simply because I used to go to my dad as a little boy, and I met him. I met Sam Woodyard used to play drums. He was the first guy I ever saw with the double bass. And I got to meet a lot of them guys, man. And yeah, you know what? I'm sure that I got influenced. The music was taking me someplace else. I was growing in here.
I mean, how did that, you know, you're kind of on that cusp of the transition from the invention of R&B.
Mm-hmm.
Like, groups like yours were like the inventors almost, I would say, of R&B. Coming out of the blues that started separating away from jazz, and you know, jazz started going this way, more out of the blues, you know, because
Well, it broke off. It broke off actually broke off around 1950. Well, it was, the Ink Spots kind of went pop.
Right.
Mills Brothers and all of them did that. But there were groups like the, what's the name of the, he was a great bass singer. Jimmy Ricks. He started doing things more, it was a sound that didn't sound like the blues. And then it got down to a group called the Orioles, 1950. They really didn't sound like the Ink Spots, none of them people. They started singing, I Saw You Crying in the Chapel. And we heard this little thing in the background. I saw you cry in the chapel. Beginning rock and roll, the backbeat. Because everything then was brushes and jazz. And we're going, ooh, that's cool. And then it progressed, and then went to the Moon Glows, then the Flamingos, and on, and it ended up where we were. And we were being influenced by them.
Do you feel that that was a transition from like the swing era was dance music?
Yeah.
All right. So then, as jazz went into bebop, people couldn't really dance to that. So then.
No, they didn't. They listened to that.
Yeah. So there was like this other thing that almost bebop caused rock and roll and that more dance music.
I think that people wanted to dance real bad because you remember that in between all of the big band swing era was bebop. So now that people went to an era where they didn't dance, they wanted to dance. You know, bebop was more, you was like going to a classical recital. You don't dance, you just listen. They were hungry. So if the Orioles and them come out with a backbeat, somebody hears that. There was a guy that heard that. He was up in Buffalo. His name was Moondog, which we know as Alan Freed. Mm-hmm. And he took it and ran with it. Then other groups saw it, and then there was more simplicity in it. You know, basically did the simple things. All these groups, and then Dr. Jive in New York came out of nowhere. And so that, you could just see them leaving that whole bebop thing. Jazz, that I've had cats tell me, man, that was the day that it started to die. Because now the people found a way to express themselves dancing. But that was only black folk. Then the white folks got hold of it. Because they call it race music.
You know,
And they got turned on. They was hiding in their rooms, hiding everywhere. You know the story. They try to hear this, and their mothers, turn that terrible music off. You know? it just took everybody back.
Anthony, you brought up a really good point about your influences, and I came across as one of the other audience members an internet piece talking about the early gangs of Brooklyn.
Whoa.
How you were a gang member,
Yeah, I was.
how Dion was a gang member. So really,
Nicky Cruz, who wrote not Crossing Switchblade, another thing he wrote, he's an evangelist now. Nicky was a Mau Mau chaplain. I was in the chaplains. My brothers were in the, it was a way of life.
So the gangster rap thing really isn't a new thing.
No, because Louis Jordan in 1947 and 48, I was a kid, he was already rapping. He was doing it in the jazz thing. And for a while, he was pretty pretty nice, but bebop was taking control. So that kind of died away. And then it shows back up like it's new music. I laugh. That ain't new. And in rapping, I tell people that one of the things about labeling things and perception is reality. First, oh no, you're a doo-wop group, but they would call these rappers singers or whatever. And I got on the radio one that says, no, I love some of the stuff I like, some of the stuff I hate. But I tell you this, they're not singers. They're poets. They use music as a background. And I started saying that, and after a while, I thought I was a voice in the wilderness. And now I'm starting to hear a lot of people talk about that now.
Right.
And somebody started, and I know I was always telling them, no, and they look at me like I had two heads. It's not, man. It's their poetry. We did that as kids. We call it
Yeah, I know what you're going
signifying each other. We used to rhyme stuff against each other. And so somebody took, when these kids picked up on it in the early 80s, and they just took it and ran with it. DMZ, they told us when they saw us one day, they said, man, yeah, man, we got to doing that stuff, man. And we would do that, we would do that. There's a group called, in those days, Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, the jazz group. They started doing it in jazz. They called the song was called Signifying Monkey. You said I was something, and I'm going, well, no, rap is not new. They just, when you got young people come up, they think it's new, but it isn't really new.
It evolved.
It evolved.
Yeah.
It evolved. So,
Well,
anyways.
Anybody else have any questions? No.
She said, pass your bedtime, huh? Maylin, pass bedtime, huh? Me too.
Yep, we're going to call it a wrap.
Thank you.
What, honey?